All right. So, good evening, everyone. I paused right there because I just wanted to make sure that we were live and that everything was going on. We are definitely happy to have you all joining us this evening. I do acknowledge that, there's so many of you have had other things to do, but taking that time out of your busy schedule to sign in and join us here is important. So we appreciate you and again, invite you and are looking forward to chatting this evening. We do hope that you're able to find this discussion enlightening and helpful. So before I go further into this, I'll briefly just introduce myself. My name is Michael Kabadi. I am an ATB 360 advisor. And so I do advise on the personal side and the business side of things. Before I dive into today's discussion, as many of you may have seen on the title or in the request sent out today or earlier on in the week, the discussion for this evening will be about how to manage your finances in times of uncertainty. And we all know, obviously, we're in interesting times. And so this is, again, just to talk about that and see how we can maneuver and navigate these times. Before we move on, I will go through the agenda for this evening, just so you are aware and know what we're going to be looking at. First things first, we're going to do some housekeeping. Please do remember to mute your mics. If you do have that on, take a second or two to make sure that that's done. We also have a chat going on. There's an email that was sent out after the initial one. There's a link to that. So if you have any questions for the speakers this evening, we do encourage you to use that link that is in your email. So you can check your email, see that link that was sent to you, type in your questions there. And towards the end of this discussion, we're going to be having a Q&A session, as you see on the agenda. We'll be able to address, we'll try as much as we can to address all the questions. If we don't get to that, we'll circle back and reach out to ensure that those questions are answered. So we'll be talking about savings and budgeting. We're going to be also looking into how to establish and build your credit score. We'll also give you a few tools, tips, and tricks on how to manage your finances. And last but not least, there's going to be a Q&A session. That being said, now I will dive in deep again and reintroduce myself, give you a brief background about who I am, where I'm from. I already mentioned my name is Michael Kabadi. I work with ATB Financial. I've been with ATB for about 5 years, coming on to 6. I moved to Canada about 6 years ago as well. So around the same time I've been with ATB. Uganda, for those of you who do not know where that is, that's in the eastern part of Africa. So I will try to see, hopefully there's people that are signed on today's call that are from that part of Africa. So I'll give you a shout out. Our universal language is Swahili. So I hope I'll try my best. I'm not that good at it, but hopefully I'll shout out in Swahili. Bari Gani, which means how are you? So yeah, that's a shout out to anyone from that region. We're happy to have you join us this evening. One of the things that I think the central thing that I'm actually passionate about is really adding value to people and helping people wherever I can. And so this role at ATB Financial really allows me to do exactly that, pursuing the things that I love while adding value to people. So I'm truly appreciative for the opportunity to be involved with ATB and getting to add value to people in this sense. I will pass on the platform, so to say, to my awesome colleague and fellow co-host, Chanel, to introduce herself.
Thank you, Michael, and good evening, everyone. My name is Chanel Henry. Like Michael said, I am a senior manager of entrepreneurship with ATB. I'm also a director of events for Black Team Member Network, and I'm very excited for our discussion this evening. I really appreciate you all taking the time, I'm sure, out of your busy schedules to tune in to us. So I hope you find it informative this evening. My background is Jamaican. I was born and raised there. I moved to Canada when I was 10. And I'm, a proud Black woman and proud to be partnering with NBCC this evening to share my knowledge and my experience working in the financial industry and hoping that we can address as many questions as we can that you have. I also speak French, je parle français aussi, donc s'il y a des gens d'Haïti, au Congo, if there's anyone on the call from Congo, Haiti, Côte d'Ivoire, enchanté, welcome. Very nice to have you all this evening. And so I'll pass it over to Nisa, who is from the National Black Coalition of Canada, to introduce herself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. And again, my name is Nisa Cromwell from the National Black Coalition of Canada, the Edmonton chapter. I've been with them since about 2004, on and off in various capacities, executive and member. And we're very excited to have partnered with and joined forces with ATB and the Black Team Member Network to put on this seminar with you guys tonight. We hope to actually put on quite a few financial literacy seminars. And so this is one of many that we hope to be partnered with ATB with in the future. So we hope you enjoy this tonight. And with that, I'm going to start going into the questions and answers, and I'm going to just ask a question and then ask one of our fabulous bankers here to help us out and give us an answer. So my first question is for you, Shaniel. Can you tell us a lot more about the ATB Black Team Member Network?
Absolutely. So the Black Team Member Network was formed this year, earlier in the springtime, and we really focus on representation, leadership, and most importantly, community service and giving back. And so that's something I really hold dear to my heart within my profession in the financial services industry and also in my personal life. I believe that, you know, from what you can gain with your life experiences, just any opportunity you have to teach and, you know, share that knowledge with someone else, I think is truly rewarding. And so we're really looking to partner with organizations to provide various financial literacy programs, workshops, and different events throughout the year.
That's super awesome. How big is this network within ATB?
It's at a few hundred people. It's growing, and we're really excited about it.
Yeah.
I think this is just the beginning, and we have all the right partners around us to get us where we want to be.
We're really privileged, NBCC, to be partnered with you guys. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, so Michael, let's get into the financial discussion here. So what things should we all consider to better manage our finances through this pandemic?
Yeah, there's lots of things definitely to look at, to consider, but I would say the first thing that you'd want to look at is taking a good look, a hard look at your current financial picture. That's the first place where you want to start, because it's in looking at your current financial picture that you're able to analyze, see the areas that need to be worked on and things that need to be tweaked, and from there on, you're able to actually come up with a strategy on what it is that needs to be addressed. So a financial picture, looking at that, drawing that out is the number one step that you'd want to start with.
All right. Okay. So then what does a financial picture look like, Michael?
You just read my mind, Nisa. That's actually what I was going up to, and that's a good question. Being on this part of things, we say these things, and these are things that are familiar to us, but it's very important sometimes that that may not come as easy to someone else. Or for sure, what a financial picture is pretty much is, it is a whole overview of your income, your revenue, if you have business revenue, your expenses, what you're spending your money on, savings, if there's any savings you have on the side, and investment. So it pretty much, as the word says, as the title says, it is a financial picture. And it will take an overall look at where your finances are at, what it is, how much money you bring in, what it is that you're doing with your money, and where that is going, right? So again, as I mentioned, that financial picture, once you have that in line, it will show you what areas need to be worked on. For instance, how much money is going to your expenses? Are you spending so much, right? Are you spending more than you should be spending? Do you have savings in place, which is definitely something we should all have. If you don't have savings in place, then maybe that's something you want to work on and say, okay, this is an area I want to work on. Do you have some money that is in investments? You need to make your money grow, and you need to have your money work for you. It's not just enough to have savings, but you got to make that money work for you and grow it as well. So once you have that, as you can see in me telling you and describing that, you can already see that lays it out properly, and it's able to tell you areas that need to be worked on, that need to be improved. So definitely that is a super key thing. The other thing that I would say from there on, before anything else, is a budget, right? So from drawing a financial picture, closely to a financial picture will be a budget. Now, this is very, very important. I cannot overemphasize the importance of a budget. If you do have one already, I would always recommend, of course, it's always good to review your budget from time and time, because things change, circumstances change, your income could have reduced, or your expenses have increased or gone down. So having a budget requires one to review it. For those of you that don't have absolutely 100%. This is an opportunity to have a budget put in place, and this is something that we can all help you with as your financial advisors. I would say if you don't know where to start, that is definitely a key place to go to. Now, simply put, in speaking about a budget, I want to simplify things and keep things as simple as this, because life is already complicated as it is. And the last thing I want to do is add on to that place. When it comes to finances, I just want to keep it simple and easy for everyone to understand. Now, simply put, again, a budget is just shows you your money, what money is coming in, and how you're spending that money. If I could summarize that, it's how much money you bring in and how that money is being spent. So there's a few things obviously that we'd have to look into, and I'll speak further to that. But again, budget is the key thing. If you don't have one, let's talk. Go see your financial advisor, reach out to a friend, whatever that looks like, and have that in place.
All right, well, that's a pretty good start. So then what tools or resources can you help? What can you recommend that we use to maintain our budget?
Awesome question. So you'll hear me say, I'll ask if we could go to the next slide, because I think that talks about, perfect, thank you so much. So you had me say simplicity and all that stuff. As I speak about budgeting tools, I always say, find something that works for you. Now, ATB has amazing tools. On our main webpage at atb.com, you can actually find a link that will show you those tools. It's right at the bottom, but we're also going to include links in this presentation, this PowerPoint, for you to go back on and check out those tools. But the one thing I'm going to stress here is that find something that works for you. I mean, you may be old school, just like me. In a way, I love getting a piece of paper and pen and jotting everything down. And if that works for you and makes sense, go for that. Remember, we're going for simplicity. So get a piece of paper and pen, jot down what your income looks like. If it's a household income, what is the total household income? How much revenue, if it's business revenue that's coming in, and then write down your expenses. Break everything down, what that looks like. You can go on Google as well and search budgeting tools. Find something that works for you. That's what I'm going for here, because at the end of the day, you don't want to complicate things. So if you get something that works for you, do that and put that budget in place. On the next slide, I actually talk about what should be included in a budget and what shouldn't be. So when you're putting together a budget, you want to make sure that you account for every single expense. Nothing should be left out, because remember, we're trying to see where your money is going. So everything, right up to that Netflix subscription, put everything in there. Okay, don't leave anything out. Now, once that's done, again, it will show you, okay, what things do I need to work around? What things do I need to tweak here? The other thing you want to do is prioritize your immediate financial needs. Now, I want to say when it comes to expenses, there's two kinds of expenses. There's the needs and the wants. So your needs are the things that you cannot do without, that you need in your day-to-day living. So that's rent. For those of you who are paying, have a mortgage, those are your mortgage payments. Food, so groceries, you want to account for that. Clothing. The other thing you want to include there is an emergency fund on your budget as well, because this is very, very important. And if there's anything that this season or this pandemic has actually reminded us, is that things can change just like that. So you want to make sure that you have money saved away for a rainy day, and that is definitely something that you should have. Now, if you have some short-term or medium-term goals, you will also budget for those as well and put that on the side. The next one is also, you should make sure you include a discretionary spending section, and that could meet any of the things that are miscellaneous that you've not accounted for. But again, that covers everything and ensures that you're covered and accounting for things that may come along the way. Now, on the next slide, I do talk about and just kind of speak to what your budget should not include. So your budget should be and shouldn't be an idealized spending plan. I mean, it should be realistic. So don't put tight restrictions that you will not be able to accomplish or achieve, because if you're not able to do that, you're going to get discouraged and you won't even follow through. So, and that again, obviously, ultimately will impact your finances. So I'll say, be realistic. Start out with amounts, allow amounts that you know you're able to work around, and don't let it be too strict. The second point sort of speaks to that as well. Let it not be, have a flexible budget as well. So you should allow for changes in your life. Income will increase. You maybe get a promotion. You maybe start a side hustle where more money is coming in. So you want to also allow for that, so you can always change. I talked about reviewing your budget. So for some of you who have your budgets already in place, if these changes come along and maybe your expenses shoot up or your income changes, you want to be able to be flexible and tweak that around. So the budget will not always be something you do and then leave there, and that will always be, no, it changes as your life changes as well. This I love. It says actually here, your budget should not prevent you from living a life that makes you happy now. Life is short. But again, so it's all about moderation and balancing it. Allow yourself to have some fun along the journey as you're going towards your goals that you've set out. Don't be too strict on yourself, because again, if it's all tied all the way, most likely you won't even be able to follow through. You'll be discouraged and not follow through at the end. So again, allow yourself to sort of put away some money, have a little bit of fun here and there, balanced, of course, in a moderate way.
Okay, so you want to allocate some fun spending. You want to allocate some discretionary funding, as you mentioned. So it doesn't have to be so super restrictive. That's awesome. Thank you, Michael, for that budgeting. All right, and so Shanil, when we have to approach the banks, what do we need to know? When we approach the banks, give us a couple tips here, because someone like me, we don't like going to the bank. So tell us how we can approach and actually enjoy that experience.
Well, I appreciate your honesty on that, Nisa, and I hope to change your opinion. But honestly, one of the first things I'd like to point out, before you approach a bank, we're people too, right? We have families, we have a life. We have also been in positions where we're looking to apply for maybe a line of credit or a mortgage or a vehicle loan. So yeah, I know there's a stereotype out there sometimes that banks are out to get you, but I really think that especially here at ATB, we're really trying to help our clients and work with you. And so my recommendation before approaching the bank is just know that we're here, and you're going to get a real person talking to you. So come prepared, be your true self, don't overthink it. At the end of the day, we just want to know who you are, so come with your story. Let us know what your goals are, where you want to be, short-term, long-term, 5 years from now type of thing. And just sort of piggybacking off Michael, whatever your ask is from the bank, be realistic about it and be transparent on exactly what it is that you're hoping we can help you with. And that way we can really do our best to find the ways to get you there. The other thing I would say is set expectations. If you have certain requirements on a timeline, so if you want us to help you with X by X date, let us know that. Even how you prefer to communicate, if it's texting. I have some clients who prefer to text me, some clients strictly phone calls, other just email. Okay. Just because I give you a business card that has my email on it, and I say email me, it's a two-way street, right? So just come be yourself, and the more open you are with us, the more we can really try to look and understand you and point you in the right direction and help you to get to where you want to go.
Awesome. No, appreciate that. And so, Michael, going back to you, if I want to approach the banks, should I be paying off my debt first? Should I be saving up a lot? What do you recommend?
Yeah, that's a good question, Nisa. And it's important because people do, especially when there's debt on the line, people tend to just kind of go one way and say, I'm just going to focus on my debt, and then I'll think about savings. But you know what? Simply put, the answer to that question is both. I recommend that you do both. Now, obviously, the amounts that you allot to each one of those is going to be different, all the percentages. So if you are having a bit of debt, you want to put more money to it, paying down your debt, but still be saving, right? And I know that we sometimes think that I've had clients where I've told them something like, I want to make sure, I want to first get to a certain level or have maybe about 5,000 that I can stack away right away. But you know what? Every dollar counts, and that money all adds up. You do not have to have this much money saved for it, or wait for you to earn a certain amount of money before you can start saving, because that money adds up, and you never know when you need this money. You have to have money put on the side for a rainy day. Now, as your debt decreases, as your amounts going to your debts are decreasing, you can then increase the money you're putting into your savings. But easy, straight answer to that is that you should do both, because again, you never know when that income will be cut off, or when maybe you're not able to get to work because you're sick or not feeling well, or a pandemic such as this hits, right? You want to make sure you have a cushion or some money that you can fall back on. So both of them.
And so you say do both, but how should I prioritize the savings versus paying down debt? Like, how would you, if I had to pick one thing over the other, how would you really recommend that I do this?
Sorry, Nisa, I also want to pull up. If you had to,
how do I prioritize saving versus paying down debt? Yeah,
very good question as well. So now I'll speak again, do both. But when it comes to paying down your debt, I will reference the Dave Ramsey's debt snowball method. I'm pretty sure he's a common person out there, and I'm hoping or thinking that most of you know about him. So what he says here, what Dave says here is you want to make sure that, first of all, list all your debt, right? All the debt that you have. And I would say rank it from the smallest to the largest. By that, I mean the one with the smallest balance all the way to the largest balance. And so what you want to do is tackle the first one first. Make your minimum payments on all the other debt that you have, but then put a little extra on the first small loan. Now, once that's paid off, you can then move that amount that you are putting towards your first small loan that's been paid off, and then put that entire payment onto the second biggest loan. And the whole point here is to, psychologically, if you're actually easily checking off things, it's going to build that momentum and actually motivate you and encourage you to move along that line and actually pay down your debt faster. So before you know it, that debt will all be down. So again, the one thing you want to do is start with a small debt and then move your way all the way up to the one with the largest debt. You quickly tick those first as you're paying that down, and that will further encourage you to actually move on and pay off that debt completely. But while doing that, still put some money aside for savings.
Okay.
Hope that makes sense, Nisa. Do I answer that? Okay.
It does. I mean, what about there's opposite ways of thinking about paying down debt, which is paying down the highest interest first versus the lowest interest. So what do you think about that?
Very good question as well. Now, I always want to look at, it depends on, number one, what the interest rate is. Like if it's such a high interest rate, then yeah, I'll say if we're able to sort of do both and maybe even increase our payments on the higher interest one, yes. But if it's not really that high, it's going to be, and what I'm worried about here, remember I talked about psychologically, of course it's going to be an interest cost, absolutely 100%. But once you're tackling that high interest rate loan, if it has a lower balance, awesome. But if it's high interest, high balance, it will take you a while before you can pay that down. And that is a bit discouraging. And all the while you have all these things that are staggering in your mind with all this other extra smaller debt as well. And it can stress you out. So if it is high interest, a relatively small balance, absolutely, I would go for that, right? But in this case, if it's all relatively, if the interest rates are relatively the same, you want to tackle one with a smaller balance and then move your way up to build onto that momentum.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael, so much. All right, so moving on to credit scores, Shanil. Can you tell us about the credit scores and what is it? How is it determined? How do banks look at us when they look at our credit scores?
Absolutely. So the credit score, it's a number I'm sure a lot of us on the call here are familiar with it. It ranges between 300 to 900, very common for banks, financial institutions, and other, even credit unions will look at the credit score as well. And that number essentially reflects your credit history over the past 7 years. And so what drives that number are a number of things. It's really giving us an understanding of how you're managing your debt, how you're managing your finances. And so typically anything 700 and above, we would consider good or very good. The area you want to avoid is really under or below that 629 bucket. However, I will say if you are below 629, you certainly can turn that around. And I will speak to some tips and tricks on how we can look to improve our credit scores. But I want to point out first, the key things we should be looking out for on that credit score. So our phone bills, your cell phone bills, that's showing up on your credit report. If you have any student loans, the payments, your monthly payment, the outstanding balance, you're going to find that on your credit score as well. Any loans that you have with banks, vehicle loans, car loans, lines of credit, credit cards, all of those things will be shown up on the score. And then it also gives us a bit of insight on, if you've been shopping around for interest rates or different types of products, each time a financial institution or any sort of a lender hits your credit, we'll see a history of who has tried to look at your credit in the past.
So shopping around for credit, not a good thing, or is that a good thing?
If you're shopping around, is that not a good thing, or is it a good thing?
Yeah, when someone is hitting our credit.
Yeah, so, you definitely, I would say it is within your right to visit whoever you want to visit to see what you're approved for and what they're able to offer. But each time someone hits your credit, it actually has an adverse impact on the score itself. So every time someone hits your credit score, it does go down a little bit. And I can actually share a story about how I learned this the hard way. Okay. I purchased my first car several years ago, and I didn't have a lot of debt. I was in a decent financial position, and so I was walking into the dealerships feeling really good about myself. And every dealership was like, "Yeah, can we hit your credit score?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." Knowing that I had good credit. Of course, it was when it came to financing, I learned that, well, you just had your credit hit 12 times by all these dealerships. My credit score tanked completely. And of course, the lower the credit score, you're going to tend to get higher interest rates. So you need to have there's a fine line, right? Where you're shopping around, but you don't want to overdo it because it will negatively impact the score.
And so it seems like the credit score is super highly regarded by the financial institutions. Why is it so important to the banks? I mean, why do we even need this thing?
Yeah, so it gives us the most, I would say, close to accurate depiction of your current financial position, because that score is, it updates in live time. So if you're putting things on your credit card, if you just got financing, all of those things, I'd be able to run a check and see. But what I want to say about the credit score is we often tie it with the banks, and the banks only care about the credit score. But I actually think it's a tool that we should be using for ourselves to give us a bit of buying power. So you have the option to check your own credit score. So you can go on Equifax or TransUnion. Those are the two big reporting agencies, and you're able to check your credit. And whenever you check your own credit, it doesn't have a negative impact on the score. I know they have a wide range of different options. So you can either, I think it's a one-time fee where you pay, you go in, you see just a quick overview of where you're sitting. There are also other tiers that is available where you can, if there's any changes or movement on the credit report, you actually get a text message or a letter sent to you so that you know exactly what's going on. And so the more closely and the more frequently you're checking those things, it's going to put you in a better position for if you're looking for financing down the road. Another important thing, I would say about that is, unfortunately, we live in a world where fraud exists. And so a lot of the times I will see that there are things reporting on someone's credit report, and it's not even their debt. It could be the case that there's a collection showing, or it says that there's a credit card that is in arrears. And, I've had situations where I've brought that up to the client and they say, this has nothing to do with me. So if you're frequently checking your own credit score, then you can be proactive. So you see something like that shouldn't be there, you call, you reach out to Equifax or TransUnion right away. And then that when you go into a bank, that you are being presented with the options and the products that really you qualify for. You're not being penalized for things that really are not your fault.
Okay. So give us some tips and tricks. How do we improve our credit score? What are things we should avoid? I'd love to kind of tell the audience how we can do better with our credit.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I just said, I honestly think the very first thing you want to do for yourself is check that credit report. So if you have some time this evening or later on this week, it's a quick Google, check your own credit score. You just put that into Google and you'll see the options pop up. what you will see, so some banks will have a credit score in the online banking feature when you log into your accounts. That score is for the most part accurate, but I will say the most accurate you're going to get with what's going to line up with the banks or any credit unions will be checking Equifax and TransUnion, as those are the creditors that we're using. Leaving debts on the report. So, it's all about that balance. You want to pay off debts. You don't want to be paying interest. You want to, that's what we all strive for, is to have that financial freedom where we're not relying on debt. But the only way for a lender to know how you manage debt is to see a history of how you've managed your debt. And so it's important that, let's say you get to that place where you've paid off a credit card. I always say, you can always reduce that limit, but never close it out. First, you never know if you're going to have a rainy day, but also if you leave it on the report and you're not using it, or you're not maxed out on it, rather, it's going to just be adding to your credit score and having that score go up. Paying bills on time. I can't stress this one enough. I think we've all heard it before. Pay your bills on time, meet your minimum payment dates. Now, that date is very, very, very important. In fact, what I've seen in my time working in banking is a lot of the times clients will, let's say the minimum payment is $100. They'll go in on the credit card, they'll put $200 every month, but they're putting that $200 per month after that minimum payment date. So while it's great that you're paying more than you should be on the loan or the credit card, you've actually missed that deadline. And so at the end of the day, the agreement was you would pay $100 by X date, and you didn't. So that actually negatively impacts your score. So just be very mindful of that. It's better you put $100 by the minimum payment date and then that extra $100 right on top when you can. And then, when things are good, increase your credit limit. Managing your finances, managing your credit cards, lines of credit, anything like that, it really comes down to our individual selves, and we have to be accountable for the debt that's on there. And I say that so when things are good, that's when you want to capitalize on it. It's also important to be mindful of things like utilization. So if you have a $5,000 credit card and you're maxed out at that $5,000, it would actually be much better that you have $5,000 credit card on a $10,000 limit. Because then your utilization is only at 50%. So things like that will actually improve your credit. And then the last thing I would say, don't shy away from creditors. So it doesn't matter where you fall on that credit score spectrum, below 629 or 900, you want to be talking to an advisor, whether it be ATB, whether it be a personal friend or family member you have in finance. There's always, we're here to talk with you. It doesn't matter at what point or what stage of your financial journey that you're at. And especially in times like this where things are so uncertain, a lot of us, some of us are unemployed or we've had to sort of pivot our businesses, and things are tough. It's tough right now. If you're not able to make a payment on your loan, that's the time to call the bank and be proactive and say, hey, I need you. I need your help. But, we're not able to help you if we don't understand or know your circumstance. And so that's why I say don't shy away. There is always someone that's going to talk to you and help you through what you're going through. And we always try to be very transparent with our clients, and it's never a no. It's always thinking yes first and how we can get you to a yes in the event that it's a no for now.
Thinking yes first doesn't even sound like a bank. I'm sorry. I mean, most banks make people feel like criminals. So thinking yes first, that's a really interesting way of looking at things. So I appreciate that. You said a couple things that I'd like to follow up on. Like the debt, you said you should have as little debt as possible. So if you have a $10,000 credit card, you want to keep it at a certain amount. And so I think you called it debt utilization. Can you talk more about that?
So sorry, I missed the first part. So if you have certain amount of debt.
So debt utilization, like how much debt is good to have. Like if you have a $10,000 credit card, you know, what's the maximum limit that you want to have on there in debt?
Right.
Right.
Great question. Yeah. So you really want to try to be below 75% utilization. Okay. The most optimal would be below 50%. But if you're below 75%, you're still maintaining your credit score. Things are good. If you're below 50%, you can see that number go up a little bit.
So if I have a $10,000 credit card, like limit, you're saying I should have 2,500 on it?
No, so 75% of the authorized amount is what you want to, so you don't want to be above that. You don't want to be above 7,500.
So I want to have a maximum $7,500 spent on that 10,000 is what you're saying.
Because as soon as you start getting close to 10,000, if you're sitting at 9,000, the score actually goes down, even if you're making that minimum payment. So like it really is about balancing. That's
insane. I'm sorry. I'm paying on time, because you made another comment about paying by the date or skipping the date. Like so what if I can't put my full maximum payment on the date? I wait and I save up a little bit more money and I pay after the date. What's wrong with that?
So here's the thing. So if you miss that payment, the score is going to go down. How much of what you do one thing is going to impact your score in that magnitude? So you miss the payment, your score is one payment. Hey, your score is not going to drop 100 points, right? If you go on to it the next month and then you start making those additional, the $200 payments, that's going to compound and your limit then goes down and down and down. Then you'll see a bigger jump to the credit score if you're paying significantly more than that one missed payment. But if it's continuous missed payments and then you're just continuously putting just a tad bit more, then you're not going to see that increase. You know what I mean? Like the change and the amount you put has to be substantial to sort of offset that missed payment, if that makes sense. Now, if you're making those payments on time, those minimum payments, every little thing you do after that will impact the overall score positively. So then you'll see it going up.
And so the important thing is to make a payment by the date that's on the statement, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Is it possible to change the date on the statement? Like, what if I like paying all my bills on the 1st or on the 31st? Can I change the credit card statement date when I have to make my payments?
Absolutely. So it's a quick call to the bank. You can call the number on the back of the card, or you can actually go into your branch and they will be able to help you. So yeah, just voice when you would prefer the statement date to be. It really depends on each individual's preference, but we can help with that for sure.
I didn't know banks allowed you to do that. That's pretty amazing. Okay. Next question for you, Shaniel. This is the entrepreneur business side of things. Is our credit still important if we have a business and we want a business loan, we want a business credit card? Does our personal credit score matter?
So the short answer is yes, especially so in the space that I work with a lot of startups, a lot of moms and pops. I do work with, mid-size and larger companies as well, but when you're starting out, it is important that we see a history or even just have an understanding of your current financial position, because at the end of the day, what your business is going to do is it's going to put a meal on your table. It's going to support your family. It's going to support you. And then I would also add on to that is I like to be very realistic with my clients, and we paint every possible scenario. So if your business has a flood, or we have a pandemic and you're unfortunately forced to close your doors, how are we going to keep the lights on? So do you have some personal savings? Do you have personal debt that can look to support the business in certain ways? And it really is not black and white. There's so many other variables that come into what we look for in business financing. But the short answer is the personal credit score definitely is something we look at as well.
All right. And so what if, someone goes to the bank, your bank, and they're just not in a financial position where they can get a loan? They're not approved for the loan. What options do they have?
Or I can jump in then and speak to that.
Sure.
First of all, great job. I think Shaniel definitely touched on good topics here. One of the things she actually mentioned that I want to piggyback off is saying that we think yes first. And so sometimes you come to us and the solution you may come to us looking for a loan, but it's a no. The solution sometimes is not you getting the loan. The solution is actually us getting you a sustainable, the solution that's actually sustainable for you. And so we may actually want to find out why in the first place are you needing money, right? Because sometimes I think in life we put band-aids on issues and we're not really dealing with them. So when it comes to money as well, you may have come to us and you think you need money to feel something, but that's not the case. We want to actually deal with that thing that brought you here in the first place, right? And our goal here is to get you financially free, right? It's not just to, give out money. And I know sometimes people think, oh, banks are in it for making money and that. Honestly, at ATB, I can only speak for ATB. I've been with ATB for 5 years now. People may say I'm biased and such, but it's the truth. It is not really, it's about doing this for our people and doing what's best for them. And sometimes that's not giving you a loan. So if we're saying no, it is okay, you can't afford it now, maybe you're not in a position to get lending. How do we get you to the yes? How can we work with you to get you to a point where you're approved? Better yet, how can we actually work with you to get to a point where you don't even need to rely or depend on us for money, right? Maybe you just want a line of credit for a rainy day or for to fill up those shortfalls here and there. But the goal ultimately is to get you financially free. So for us, again, the option will be looking into getting you to a place where you are good, you're financially free, and you do not need to rely on banks for your way through life or financing whatever it is that you need to.
So you say that the bank is supposed to help us get financially free. That's, again, another interesting statement from a bank. I mean, I thought bank make their money from giving us loans and for us paying loans. That is shocking. I mean, you guys aren't, you're not our best friends. You're in the business to make money, right?
Interesting. We're not your best friend. But you know what? Sadly enough, that's what has been put out there. And I know that certain institutions maybe may have presented that. I'm not going to point fingers here. But yeah, it's a sad truth that unfortunately, that's why we're even having this discussion. That's why we stepped out, even in our prior conversation, to say, how can we help people? How can we show people that we're actually for them and that we're partnering with them? How can we really show people that we're here for them and not sort of standing off of, hey, you know what, you just come in, we get some money off of your interest. That is not a goal. And I can, again, certainly speak for myself, but for ATB Financial as a whole. So we're here to change that, right? When you come in, we want to partner with you. We want to know your story. And Chanel touched this as well. Come tell us your story. Who are you? What do you want to achieve? What do you want out of life? And how can we then move along with you to support you on that journey, right? So I hope that after hearing this today, people's minds will be changed and they will surely know that we're here for them. I can see Nexan, is that, am I straight up? She's nodding her head. No, that's awesome, like seriously. And if you want to know more, just reach out to Chanel, myself, and let's have a chat. But that's the truth. We really want you guys to know that we're partnering with you here, right, at the end of the day. So,
well, that's awesome, Michael. Chanel, do you have any further thoughts about this?
I do. And you know what? It has come from my own personal experience going bank to bank and hearing no. And you walk away and it's complicated. The banking system, the financial system in North America is not simple. And so when you go in and you get a decline or you don't get exactly what you're looking for, where do you turn to after that? And what it was for me was the one banker who took the time to actually explain to me why I was not able to get approved for the loan that I was looking for. And so that's one thing I always do with my clients is I'm not going to we talked about setting realistic expectations. I'm going to be realistic with the people that I talk to, right? If we can do it, let's do it. If we can't, I'm going to tell you we can't, and this is exactly why. So I encourage you all on this call, if you happen to have a situation like that, it is within your right to ask questions. You can ask, why not? You can ask, what do I need to do to get there? And if you have a good banker, they're going to sit with you. It doesn't matter if it's 1 meeting, 2 meetings, 3 meetings. It's all about that sharing of knowledge and really empowering you to take control of your finances, knowing that we're here for you every step of the way. So it's not always scary. We can be your best friends, Nisa. It happens.
That's awesome. What about, I have another question for either of you. What about having more than one bank? So you mentioned getting declined from other banks. So would it make sense to have more than one bank account with more than one institution? Does that help our position more as people here trying to work with you guys?
I mean, yeah, you can have more than one bank. Absolutely, whatever that works for you. I find that sometimes people are saying, I'm going to have one bank where I'm putting away my savings. I do not want to look at that, and then I'll deal with another bank, that I can do my day-to-day stuff and kind of separate that. And stuff, because people are like, if I'm having this one bank and I'm looking at all my money, maybe I'll be tempted to tap into that or misuse the funds. Makes sense. However, the one thing I'll tell our clients, and again, Chanel talked about it, I always ask my clients, what are you looking for in a bank? And I always challenge my clients to ask that. Don't go in it thinking, I probably need them and I have to do what they want. No, it is about you more than anything. It's actually about the customer, right? So I always challenge them and I ask them, what are you looking for in a bank? What do you want to achieve? And how can we, maybe you don't even need two banks, because at the end of the day here, we're talking about budgeting and such. Why incur any other extra fees, yet you can have everything on just one institution and separate that? Maybe the reason why you're doing that, if I could solve the solution or solve whatever it is you're trying to find from the other institution, then perfect, let's have everything in one place, consolidate everything. At the end of the day, as long as you're aware of that and you still make that decision and say, you know what, I still want to open another bank. Maybe no, I don't want to put, and people use that, I don't want to put my eggs in one basket. Fine. But one thing that I'll mention too, when we're talking about banks and deposits, ATB is different because we do guarantee all your deposits within ATB 100%.
Okay.
That's something, and other institutions wouldn't. They do guarantee up to a certain percentage. That's something to be cognizant and remember. So if anything were to happen, all deposits, we do not guarantee up to, or maybe 50% of whichever funds you have, 100. The total is all guaranteed. And I don't know if Chanel also wants to sort of expand on this. It's such an important point.
That's news to me, Michael. I thought every bank would, insure all of my money. So you're saying that ATB is different than other banks when it comes to my deposit?
Yeah. And this is public information, so you can actually even ask them, look it up to see the deposits, the amounts that are guaranteed in deposits. Absolutely, they're 100%.
That's insane. Didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Chanel, do you have?
Yeah. Sure.
I think Michael covered that off perfectly.
Well, I do have a question from the group here, so thank you so much for putting some questions in here. It's about credit score, Chanel, so I'm going to direct this to you. So do you have any advice for immigrants or newcomers to Canada who don't have Canadian credit? So how can they build up their credit score? Yeah,
for sure. There are a couple of options, and I'm going to actually put this one back on Michael because he focuses more on the personal side than I do. But what I will say is that we have secured credit card options, and that's the typical, I would say, one of the options that you can look into to start building your credit. Michael, I'm going to let you run with this one. You're really the expert for this.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have, and another reason why I love ATB and what we're thinking about everyone and the newcomers, we actually have specific programs for new to Canada immigrants. We have a special product, a special offer for that. And so the way it works, it actually covers, because we understand that people are coming in, they're trying to settle, they don't have credit. Some of them are trying to look for work. They've not even gotten any employment. So we have two parts. Now we have those who are new to Canada, however, do not have any job or any employment. We can actually give them up to 1,000 unsecured credit card. Up to 1,000. We also have free accounts where we waive 1 year of banking as well. Because again, you're being thrown into a whole other world that is new to you. And so we want to facilitate that journey and make it easy on you. Again, we know how tough it is. And so financially, we want to be able to tell you and say, hey, well, we're with you. We know the challenge. We see those challenges. And so we do have that new to Canada in offer. Then we also have, if you've recently gotten a job as well, we actually can also then offer you up to 5,000 unsecured lending, including a line of credit and your credit card as well. So you don't need to have built up that credit. That then sets you up to actually build up that credit to be able to get more lending as well. Because we understand, like, how else are you going to build your credit if you don't have a credit card? Like, think about it, right? How else can we help you, say, or lend you? Because everything on this part of the world, for of us who are not from the Western part and have moved in, it is all based on credit. It doesn't matter how much money you earn if you don't have a good score. That, and I like how Chanel references. We were talking a while back, and she was speaking to your credit score, and I think she probably may have mentioned this, saying, I love how she says that it's actually buying power. It's what it is. So without a credit score, it doesn't matter how much money you're bringing in, but your credit score is vital and it's very important. So at ATB, we do have those programs to answer that question that will help you start that and establish your score.
That's awesome. So an unsecured loan up to $5,000 for newcomers, right? To help them out.
Yes. Yes.
That's super awesome. Okay, well, we're almost at the end of our slide points here. So our last slide was actually to talk about how you can help the folks here with some COVID relief programs, if there's anything ATB can do, any resources you can point us to?
Yeah, absolutely. We do have some personal and business. I'll speak to the personal programs, and Chanel will expand on the business programs. So for the personal, we do have the SAB, which is the Emergency Response Benefit. The government is also offering an emergency wage subsidy. As you can see on there, there's a recovery sickness benefit and recovery caregiving. Now, I'm going to add that all these are actually offered by the government. We're here to just facilitate, and if you have an account with ATB, obviously those funds will be deposited in your ATB account. There are links as well that are added onto this presentation where you can actually click on that and get further information regarding these programs.
Yeah, I'll just add to that with regards to the business program. So there's the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance, which is out to help landlords and tenants, CEBA and the RRF. And so all of these programs, as I'm sure a lot of you know, there's been a lot of changes throughout these times with the requirements and the eligibility. And so we do our best here at ATB to stay on top of what's being released and rolled out by the government. And you can follow all of these things on our ATB website. There's a COVID relief page and contact. There's all this, we try to direct you as best as possible as we can, because some of these applications, they require different things. And if you have any questions, there are representatives that can answer that. And so from a very high level, we at ATB are able to speak to these things, answer anything that you have, but there are specific numbers that you can contact on the government website as well.
Awesome. So I think you said that there's a nice handy website page on ATB that has links to all of these Canadian government programs. It's awesome.
Yes. And it's updated regularly. So that's what I recommend to my clients, is literally bookmark that page. It's going to be your most up-to-date information, and you're not necessarily sitting on the phone for a very long time. We try to put as much in there under the FAQ section.
Well, this has been awesome, guys. And so I think we're at the end here. I'd love to, if you guys can recap kind of what we talked about today. So if there's any further tips and tricks you can kind of review with us again, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Chanel. So in these times, again, what you want to look at, if there's any of you that may be carrying balances on your credit cards, you want to look at maybe switching those to lower interest rate cards. And I know that at ATB, I can speak for our products for sure. We do have lower interest cards for as low as 7.75%. So it's Prime Plus. It goes with Prime. So an example, if you are probably carrying a balance and the interest rate usually on the balance is about 20%, you can actually get for almost actually half of that. And it's just a switch. It's just a switch, which will actually save you costs in interest rate. Again, this is a good time to take a look, have a conversation with your advisor, and see if you can have your loans rewritten. Prime rate has gone down, so if you're able to and you can qualify, this is a good time for us to rewrite those loans and maybe get you lower interest, again thereby saving you costs and allowing you more money, disposable money on your budgets. The other thing you want to do is cut out some unnecessary spend. Now this is it's tight, but you know what? You gotta do what you gotta do. I see Nisa here. Netflix, maybe you gotta cut out that Netflix, whatever that looks like. Try stay within your budget. Take a hard look at your expenses as well and see things that you can do without. And remember, the motivation, the drive here is that it's getting you to a better place. Kind of, if you keep that in mind, I believe that will actually encourage you to make those changes and the switches that you need to do. The other thing that we did speak to was, having savings. It doesn't matter how small it is, $5, $10, whatever that looks like. And one of the things you can do to actually help you do this is set up automatic or recurring contributions. For those of you who are like, I just want to have the money taken off of my account without me thinking about it. If that's the way, reach out to your advisor. We can set that up for you if you bank with ATB or even any other institution. Go out there, tell them, and they can actually set those auto transfers into your account, and thereby actually establishing a savings plan for you. The other thing for people who are like, and we kind of, Nisa alluded to that when we're talking about having different banks. Sometimes people are like, maybe I want to have an account elsewhere where I can't see those funds, and you can go as far as not even having a debit card access. I know for us here, we do that for our clients where we won't give them a debit card, we'll open an account, put locks as well. Even if you try accessing it online, you can't actually transfer funds because it's locked. So do whatever you can. If that works for you, do it. The goal is to actually get you into a better financial position, and we'd love to help you do that and partner with you.
That's really awesome. You mentioned something about switching your high interest rate for a lower interest rate card. Again, that's amazing, but how easy is that to do? Again, the banks make money with high interest rates. So you said that that's something that you guys do. I've never heard a bank even mention that before.
Yeah, you know what? This also comes, I think what I would attribute is a lack of information. Now, sometimes when you go into an institution, you're like, hey, I want a credit card. And maybe questions are not asked, and you maybe apply for whatever card you see on there with maybe it has benefits, and you're like, oh, this looks good, I'm just going to apply for that without asking or getting more information. So people end up getting into whatever speaks to their eyes, but without really looking at the full details, right? Now, for us, we'll go over that. You'll find that there's different cards that have different interest rates. Some of them will come with an annual fee, but if it's saving you over like 50%, it is worth it, right? I'll give you just a brief example. Just recently, I got a client who actually has credit cards, and I'll withhold from mentioning the names, but they do have credit cards elsewhere. And I had this conversation, and I said, have you actually looked into asking if you can actually get lower interest rates? They were like, oh, okay, I don't think it was. I just sent an email. It doesn't hurt. They actually asked, and they got back in that same email, responded, hey, these are actually the lower interest rates that I'm now getting for my cards. The other thing I want to mention here is that there's a balance transfer. Now, ATB has, and other institutions have that. Now, when you are carrying a balance, for instance, I'll speak to the ATB program, and you do not hold an ATB MasterCard or credit card with ATB, we give you 6 months free, 0%, where you can actually transfer your balance to ATB for the first 6 months, 0%. So all the payments you're making are actually going towards the principal itself, no interest. And then after those 6 months, the plan is that actually you would have reduced your balance enough. So once the interest kicks in, there is little left to actually go into the interest expenses.
That's good information, Michael. That gives me some ideas, but that's very interesting. Okay, Chanel, do you have any other tips and tricks, I guess, from a business point of view?
I would say, if you're starting any business, if you're doing a side hustle, if you're pivoting, if you're now finding opportunities during these times to expand your business, we have an entrepreneurship center. We have 4 or 5, I want to say, across the province, and it's a space where we have people like myself and Michael who work on the business and personal side. We're able to help you really with that whole financial picture. And so if it's just strategizing, like you have an idea, but you don't know where to take it or how to market it, we can help you with that. And so if you go on the ATB Entrepreneurship website, you will find all the different resources, people that you can meet with. You can actually book into their calendars directly. And the most important thing I'd like to say is that you don't have to be an ATB client to get these access to these people. There's spaces, I mean, back in the day when it wasn't COVID that you could use. So like the biggest thing I can say here is we're really here to work with you guys and help you as best as we can. So don't shy away.
Well, that is super awesome, guys. And again, thank you so much for working with NBCC to bring this information to, the people of Edmonton. Are we all going to be getting a copy of these slides here?
Absolutely. We will be sending out the slides, so you'll have everything with all of the links in it and our contact information.
Okay, that's really awesome. So thank you very much. I mean, I'm just going to put this out to the audience if there's any further questions. Otherwise, I think, Michael, if you'd like to wrap us up, I think we might be almost done here.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess we again appreciate you guys for coming on here today. Chanel kind of sort of wrapped up that up properly here. The slides and everything that we've talked about will be sent out to you. So if you have any questions, reach out to us. We're more than happy to work with you, partner with you, and I'm looking forward to supporting you on that journey as well.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Is there any further questions that we need to answer?
We'll check and see here if there is.
Okay, well, it looks like we have no more questions. So again, thank you on behalf of the National Black Coalition of Canada, NBCC. Thank you, ATB, Black Team Member Network, for working with us. We really appreciate your insights and all the tips you gave us. And we look forward to the follow-up email with the slides. And we look forward to putting on some of these financial literacy programs again in the future. So thank you so much, guys.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
Thanks, guys. Take care.